I'm here for my appointment with the oncologist.
It's October 2021.
And the blood work report came up and showed an increase in the CA-125.
Mom is bracing herself.
Waiting for a copy of the report right now, and it's okay. I'm not too worried. It's like there, right? So it's genetic, and there's a possibility that it could come up again. So this is that time, but it looks hopeful. Let's see what the scan says. I'm not feeling sick or anything or ill or anything. They might look at starting chemo again. So I'm saying to myself, okay, Lord, here we go again. That time. So I'm sure it'll be fine.
This is Overlooked, a podcast about ovarian cancer. I'm Golda Arthur, and you're listening to the voice of my mom, Teresa. The cancer came back for a second time. This time around, there were no symptoms as such. Mom was not in terrible pain, as she had been in before, and it was a routine blood test that showed a higher than normal CA-125. That's the blood marker for ovarian cancer. We were disappointed, of course. I mean, so much more than disappointed. We were heartbroken, really. But we had all learned so much along the way. Mom's cancer was genetic. She had a gene mutation called RAD51C, and the drugs didn't work. So the idea that she would be back in chemo for a recurrence, we weren't really surprised. So now we just had to get on with it.
I'm in the bathroom cleaning it, giving it.
Cleaning is coping too,
The bathroom is getting cleaner as I speak, sparkling and shining. And tomorrow I go for the first chemo of 6. The fact that I can rub and scrub the bathroom, I'm feeling good. I praise the Lord for that.
As Mom was starting another round of chemo, I decided I would finally go and get that genetics test done for myself, a whole 2 years after Mom did hers. So why did it take me so long? Well, the pandemic had slowed down healthcare everywhere, so that was one reason. And the other, and probably the real reason, part of me didn't want to know. I still couldn't bring myself to look at it. But eventually I spat into a little plastic container and sent off my sample to a genetics testing company. So let me just read what my report says. Reason for testing, family history. Test performed, sequence analysis and deletion/duplication testing of the 47 genes listed in the genes analyzed section. I mean, it's 8 pages long, but the important information is up here in a little blue box. Result, positive. 1 pathogenic variant identified in RAD51C. RAD51C is associated with autosomal dominant predisposition to ovarian cancer. So there we have it.
I'm Bonnie Federman. I'm a genetic counselor at New York Presbyterian, Queens.
I was referred to a genetics counselor to figure out what should happen next.
I counsel individuals with a family history of cancer or who have cancer themselves.
The work that Bonnie Federman and all genetics counselors do is to bridge the very technical, scientific world of genetics and, well, the rest of us.
So basically, someone comes to talk with me. I'm going to do a cancer risk assessment. I'm going to ask them about lifestyle factors, related hormonal factors, their personal history, family history of cancers. I'm looking for patterns of cancer that run in the family.
With a BRCA mutation, the risk is up to 40%. In my case, my mutation meant I had a 10% risk, and that number would only rise as I got older.
We're learning as we're going. This is a very rapidly evolving field, and it used to be genetic testing was very expensive, and we only tested for BRCA1 and 2. Now there are probably about 20 other genes that we know have an association with increased risks for breast and ovarian cancer, and we're testing those. So there's possibly a gene we still have yet to identify that could be responsible for cancer in your family.
Genetic testing has emerged as a powerful tool and an important preventative test, really the only preventative test, since there's no way to screen for ovarian cancer.
If we do genetic testing, we can prevent cancer in patients before they develop a cancer. So that also brings to question, how are we doing genetic testing? Currently, most people who receive genetic testing already have a diagnosis of cancer. But if they do have a mutation, then what we do is cascade testing. We extend the testing out to first-degree relatives. And those are the people who don't have cancer that we can prevent cancer in.
Cascade testing, meaning family members down the line. My younger brother Aaron has not yet got himself tested. My sister, Esther, did, and her test came out just like mine, positive for RAD51C. And she decided to take the idea of prevention even further.
Okay, this is it. I'm going to have my tubes up, which is actually quite a big deal.
We'll get to that after the break. I wanted to pause for a quick second to tell you about our website, overlookedpod.com. You can find out more about the podcast and get in touch with us here. And you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this. Now, back to the show. I have to tell you about my sister. Her name is Esther, and she's my baby sister, 8 years younger than me. She's got a big heart, great style, and is just so smart. She lives in London with her husband and her 2 daughters, my really delightful nieces. Our timeline is really messed up here. We both took our genetics tests in 2021, but only got a chance to really sit down and talk about it earlier this year in 2023. We were both in her old room in our family's house in Halifax. The difference between Esther and me is that after she took that test, she took action.
Is this thing on?
I've always wanted to say that.
You want to check if it's on?
It's on. I'm just
You
kidding.
want to check it's reporting?
Listen, I know what I'm doing, okay? Okay, let me just start with questions. So, you had your fallopian tubes removed last year.
Yeah.
Why did that happen? Like, where did that story begin?
It began the summer that we came to see Mom. Her first round of chemo. I don't know. It's all a blur. How many rounds of chemo? I think it was around the first. And she was bald and tiny.
So she's talking about the summer of 2018 here. It was cancer round 1 when Mom lost all her hair in that first toxic round of chemotherapy. It was a tough summer.
And it hit me that that's what cancer does. And then she found out that it was genetic. I think in some way I was like, okay, whatever. Like everyone gets cancer, so I'll get cancer. And then I saw her. And then I thought, if there's any chance that I can prevent that from being me and my kids having to see me like that, then I'm going to do it. I had called my doctor, said my mom has cancer, it's genetic, I want to get tested. And say what you want about the state of England and politics and Brexit and everything else. The NHS is amazing. I think I called them on a Monday. And I remember crying at the end of it because, like, I don't think I actually understood what Mom had, really. And then she explained the whole thing to me, and she had such a calming sense of, we're going to, be with you on this, and you're going to be fine. And it kind of set me on the journey that I went on for a year.
Esther was involved in a study of people who were at higher risk of ovarian cancer. One of the options open to her at this point was a salpingectomy, a removal of her fallopian tubes. There were other options too. She could have a full hysterectomy or do nothing, waiting and watching. She decided on the salpingectomy.
It instinctually just felt so right. Like that was the answer, because it was a mixture of being able to have some agency and say, right, I want to do something, but at the same time, not doing something so drastic. I was 37 at the time. To be 37, going through essentially forced menopause. And so, yeah, it just instinctively, I was like, yes, I want to do it.
Okay, forced menopause. If you have your ovaries surgically removed, An oophorectomy, that's immediate menopause. Getting your fallopian tubes out is less drastic, but of course, that's immediate infertility. So making a decision to have any of these organs removed is a big deal and scary.
What was the actual procedure like? The actual surgery was a bit nerve-wracking. I had never been under general anesthetic before. Other than that, I remember the whole time feeling weirdly positive, again, thinking, great, this is me, like, not just sitting back and thinking, oh, I could get cancer. So yeah, I never once thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
So talk me through it.
I remember the clinking sounds of my rings, because I never take my rings off. I have a ring on every single finger, and I have multiple rings on each finger, in fact. So I have like 16 rings. I can hear like my rings coming off. And then when I get nervous, I get weirdly like chatty. I'm chatting with the nurse. She gets me on the gurney. We go in. The walls were like the 70s yellow. And so I'm looking at the walls, and I nervously look over at the anesthesiologist, and I'm saying to him, so how many of these have you done today? And he was like, what? And I was like, it's just, I've never been under before. And so, yeah, I'm just wondering, like, is this your third one? You're just like, okay, I'm going to go have a sandwich after this. And he looks at me and he's like, I know what I'm doing. And I start blabbering about, yeah, I'm having my ovaries removed, you see. And he stops me and he said, your fallopian tubes. I remember that. And I thought, okay, look, if he knows at least like what's going on, he's going to be good at this, right? I remember I'm lying down and I'm feeling more nervous at that point about going under than the actual surgery. I can see my eyes closing, those yellow walls, and a slightly pissed off anesthesiologist looking at me just going, oh my God, did she just question whether I can do this job? Yeah. I just remember thinking this is my one chance to try and have some agency over it.
Mm-hmm. Why was the agency important?
Because Mom didn't have any. There's a guilt. After I had, the day I came out of my surgery, I was talking to Mom, and I remember I was still woozy and saying to her, I feel so guilty. I feel so guilty that I got to do this, and I got to buy myself time, and I got to buy my kids more time and all this stuff, and that you never had that chance.
What did she say when you said that to her? Do you remember?
I think she said something to the effect of, if it means that my having cancer was, I think she said trigger or the alert or something like that, that, you know, you have the gene, then it was worth it, which made me, well, in one way it made me, you know, sad, but the other I thought, actually, that's also what I'm thinking, which was, okay, I went through this. My kids now it's on there, my two daughters have on the NHS file, like little marker notes. Now my kids are going to catch this way earlier. This is not necessarily going to be something that they have to think about. So I get where Mom was coming from, right?
Yeah. It's a very Mom thing to say.
It is a very Teresa Arthur thing to say.
Do you want to add anything that I didn't ask about?
So here's a funny thing. During that process that I talked about, going through all of those consultations, they were asking about you a lot, right? They wanted to know who your doctor was, who are you registered with? Why are you not having the same process? And I think I kind of said, well, look, she's in the States and it's a slightly different procedure. And there was this sense of this genetic cancer doesn't just affect one of you. It affects all of you up and down the generational chain, I guess, which was an interesting and different way of approaching it. There's this thing that we have now. There's this thing now.
Thank you, Essie.
Thank you, Golda.
Well, I told you I'm sending you the reports right away.
Mom has been on my case for the last 2 years now.
go right away to your health provider and get into some kind of testing system or whatever. And that's frustrating me even now that nothing's been done where you're concerned. Esther's had her fallopian tubes out.
Yeah, I'm trying. And
Good.
everything is moving very slowly.
Yeah, but you know that's my anxiety now.
It's been slow going. Maybe it's just my healthcare provider. I don't know, but I'm still gonna push to try and do it. Earlier this year, 2 years after that genetics test I took, I finally got myself to a gynecologic oncologist here in New York. I recorded an audio diary after the appointment, trying to make sense of it all. Okay, we're basically talking about scheduling the operation, and it's not just the fallopian tubes that needs to come out. He said it's the fallopian tubes and the ovaries, and that is going to put me in forced menopause. So I'm going to go in, do the operation, come out, and just instant menopause. Yeah, not looking forward to that. I feel really, really wobbly. Kind of can't quite place this feeling. The things have somehow slipped through my fingers. You know, I thought I was paying attention to everything. I mean, I'm making a podcast about ovarian cancer, but I feel like something big has slipped through my fingers, and I'm like trying to catch up and figure out what it is. And that's making me a little nervous. But we'll see. Since that day, I've had a few more conversations with my gynecologic oncologist. And here are some more crazy words. I'll be having a salpingectomy and an oophorectomy, a removal of my fallopian tubes and ovaries before this year is out. I'm still pretty nervous because I've become suddenly and inexplicably very fond of my ovaries for some reason. But this is a way to manage my own risk of ovarian cancer. And at the end of the day, as Mom says, maybe it'll be fine. Overlooked is written and produced by me, Golda Arthur. Our associate producer is Jessica Martinez-Dios. Lissa Soep is our editor, and Eric Gomez is our sound designer and engineer. Please share this episode with someone who would like to listen as well. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you're listening to this. And for more information about the show, check out our website, www.overlookedpod.com. Thank you for listening.